Before I could open my eyes for the first time, my own people had already decided I did not deserve to live. This is not a folktale. This is my life. My name is Adiz, and this is part one of the story of how they buried me alive for the crime of being born a twin, and how I survived to make sure it never happened to another child again. In the village of Ekamini, nestled between rolling hills and a wide, slow river, there was one law older than any king, older than any harvest season. Twins were not children. Twins were a curse. My mother, Ngozi, was the pride of Ekamini. She was the only daughter of a respected farmer, married at 19 to a hardworking man named Abana, who tended cocoa fields on the edge of the village. For 3 years, she prayed for a child, visiting every shrine, every church, every healer who promised her a solution. When she finally became pregnant, the entire village celebrated with her, bringing yams and palm wine to her doorstep in blessing. No one knew that inside her womb, 2 lives were growing, not one. As her belly grew larger than expected, the midwives whispered among themselves, but no one dared say the word aloud. Twins were spoken of only in warnings, in old stories told to frighten children, never as something that could happen to a respected family like ours. When the contractions began on a humid night in the rainy season, the entire compound gathered outside, waiting for the cry of new life. But as the night wore on, confusion spread through the hut. One cry became 2. My mother had given birth to twins, myself and my sister, Amara. The joy of the village turned to dread within minutes. Word spread like wildfire through Ekamini before the sun had even risen. Ngozi's child was cursed. She had given birth to 2 souls from one womb, and in Ekamini, that was the deepest omen of disaster a family could carry. By morning, the compound of my grandfather was surrounded by anxious neighbors and curious onlookers, all kept back by a line of village guards. Word had already reached the elders, and within hours, they arrived, led by the village's chief priest, a feared man named Ez Okonkwo, who claimed to speak directly for the ancestors and the gods of the land. The elders gathered beneath the great baobab tree at the center of the village, the same tree where every major decision in Ekamini's history had been made, marriages approved, land disputes settled, and now, apparently, whether a newborn child deserved to live. The gods do not bless a woman with 2 souls from one womb. This is an omen of disaster. If the twins remain in this village, the rains will fail, the crops will rot in the fields, and sickness will visit every household before the next harvest. My father, Abana, stood before the elders and tried to reason with them. He reminded them that in neighboring villages along the river, twins had begun to be accepted, that missionaries and traveling teachers had already spoken against this ancient practice, calling it outdated and cruel. These are my children, both of them. I beg you, let us leave the village if we must, but do not ask me to hand over my own daughter to be killed. You may leave if you wish, Abana, but the curse does not leave with you. It remains in the land until it is removed the proper way. Choose now. Your whole family suffers the wrath of the gods, or one child is returned to the forest where such spirits belong. Fear is louder than reason, and grief makes cowards of even the bravest men when an entire community stands against them. The elders ruled. 1 twin could remain in the village, but the second-born, the child believed to carry the heavier portion of the curse, had to be removed before nightfall. I was the second-born. I was the one chosen to die. It was my father's own younger brother, my uncle Kalu, who was ordered to carry out the task, since a direct parent was forbidden by custom from personally disposing of a spirit child. He did not want to do it. He argued, he wept. He even offered to take me far away and raise me himself in secret. But the elders warned that if he refused outright, his own wife and children would be cast out of Ekamini alongside him, and his crops would be salted so nothing could grow on his land again. The forbidden forest, known to the village as Ajo Ophia, was where every unwanted twin in Ekamini's long history had been left. Hunters avoided it. Children were forbidden from playing near its edges. It was said that no child had ever been found alive there, and no adult had ever dared go looking. My uncle walked for nearly an hour before reaching the ancient Iroko tree at the heart of the forest. its massive roots twisting above the ground like the fingers of a giant. He dug a shallow hole beneath those roots, placed me inside, wrapped only in a thin cloth, and began, with shaking hands, to cover me with soil. But before he could finish, a sound stopped him cold, the snap of a twig, footsteps approaching through the darkness. Fearing discovery, fearing that someone would see him and report that he had hesitated, that he had wept, that he had been too slow, he fled into the darkness, leaving the grave incomplete. The hunter's name was Baba Chitty, a widower from a distant village who had lost his own wife and unborn child years earlier to a difficult childbirth. He said, later in life, that hearing my cry in that forest felt like hearing his own unborn child calling to him from beyond the grave. Whatever the reason, he could not walk away. He wrapped me in his own hunting cloak and carried me through the night, deliberately avoiding the main paths that led back toward Ekamini. He walked for 3 days, sleeping only in short bursts, feeding me with goat's milk borrowed from a farmer along the way, until we reached his home village of Umuahia, far enough from Ekamini that no one there had ever heard of the twin buried in Ajo Ophia forest. He told everyone in Umuahia that I was the daughter of a distant cousin who had died in childbirth, a story simple enough that no one questioned an aging hunter suddenly raising an orphaned girl. He named me Adiz, daughter of a king, because, he told me many years later, anyone who survived what I survived was destined for a life greater than the one that had been chosen for her. He raised me with everything he had, though he had little. He taught me to farm the small plot of land behind our hut, to identify which mushrooms were safe, and which would kill a grown man within hours, to read the sky before a storm arrived, and most importantly, he taught me never to bow to fear disguised as tradition. Years passed quietly. I grew up believing I was simply an orphan, blessed to have found a father in a man who owed me nothing, but gave me everything. I never once imagined that I had a mother, a father, and a twin sister still alive, only 3 days' walk from the only home I had ever known. When I turned 22, everything I believed about myself began to unravel. Baba Chitty, now well into his 70s, fell seriously ill during the dry season. The village healer examined him and said simply that his body was tired, that decades of hard labor and hunting had finally caught up to him, and that his time on this earth was drawing to a close. I stayed by his side every single night for 2 weeks, refusing to leave even when neighbors offered to take shifts watching over him. On the 13th night, he woke suddenly, his grip on my hand tightening with more strength than I thought he had left. Adiz, there is something I must tell you before I go, and I am sorry I did not tell you sooner. I am not your blood father. I found you as a baby, in a grave, in the forest of a village called Ekamini. You were left there because you were born a twin, and your people believed that made you a curse. I could not speak. Everything I had ever believed about my own identity shattered in the space of a single sentence. He told me everything he knew, the name of the village, the decree of the chief priest, my mother's name, Ngozi, and even the exact location of the ancient Iroko tree where I had almost taken my last breath before I had truly begun to live. I do not tell you this so that you carry hatred in your heart, my daughter. I tell you because a person who does not know where the rain first began to beat them can never truly find shelter from it again. Whatever you decide to do with this truth, let it come from strength, not bitterness. Promise me that much. I promise, Baba, I promise. 3 days later, in the quiet hour just before dawn, Baba Chitty passed away peacefully in his sleep. The man who had pulled me from a grave with his bare hands, who had raised me on borrowed milk and unborrowed love, was gone. I buried him with the same Iroko wood walking staff he had carved for himself years earlier, planting it into the soil above his grave as a marker no one in that village would ever forget. And standing there, in the cool morning air, I made a silent vow to myself. I would go back to Ekamini, not as the baby they had tried to erase from existence, but as a woman they would never be able to look away from again. I did not yet know what waited for me in Ekamini, a mother consumed by 22 years of guilt, a twin sister hidden away in secret, and the very man who had ordered my death, still alive, still practicing the same cruelty on other unfortunate families. In part 2 of this story, I return to the village that tried to erase me, and I come face to face with the mother who was forced to let me go. What happens next will change both of our lives forever. If this story has touched you, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss part 2. Drop a comment below and tell me. Could you ever forgive a mother who was forced to make an impossible choice?